Welcome to our lesson on box plots. This is going to build right off of our lesson from last week on measures of variation. So we're going to create something called a box plot, which looks a little bit like this one down here. Okay? And it's basically just a way of organizing all the information you found when you're doing measures of variation. So a box plot is a diagram that is constructed using the median, the middle of our data, the quartiles, so the first and third quartiles, so the middle of the lower half, the middle of the upper half, and then something called the extremes. So sometimes we're going to call them the upper and lower extremes. They're also called the minimum and the maximum. But basically they're the biggest and the smallest, or the smallest and the biggest here. A box is drawn around the quartile values, and then the whiskers extend from each quartile to the extremes. So in our example right down here, the number in the middle is our median, the middle. The first quartile is this left edge of the box. The third quartile is the right-hand side of the box. So that's the middle of the data. And then the lower extreme is the whisker, and then the upper extreme is our whisker. So basically, median is the middle. Now, it's not always in the middle of the box. It just happens to be the middle of our data. The first and third quartiles make the edges of the box, and then the upper and lower extremes create the whiskers. So let's try one of these together. Again, jot down the steps so you know what it is, but don't feel like you got to jot down this set of data. You might as well just write it with me when we put it in order, because remember, anytime you're finding the median, you'll always want to put the data in order to make sure that we do it correctly. So start with our 3, and then a 4, a 5, and a 5, and then a 6, a 7, and a 12. Again, always do a quick check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So first thing we do is we find our median. We sort to the middle, and my median is 5. So I'm going to put a dot at 5 on my number line. Now I'm going to find the middle, or the median, of the lower half. So because I circled the 5, it's not part of the lower half. These are my numbers. In the middle here is going to be my first quartile. So I'm going to put a dot at 4. Then I'm going to find the middle of the upper half. Well, the middle of these numbers is 7. So that's my third quartile. And then my upper and lower extremes. Sometimes we call them the minimum and the maximum. The minimum is 3. That's my lower extreme, or the minimum. My biggest number, my maximum, is 12, or my upper extreme. I'm going to put a dot at 3 and 12. So the only dots I put on there are the 5 numbers I calculated. The median, my 2 quartiles, and then my upper and lower extreme, my minimum and maximum. The 3 dots in the middle form the box. The whiskers extend out to those upper and lower extremes. So 5 numbers total, median, 2 quartiles, and the upper and lower extremes. Those are my 5 points. The outer points connect with whiskers. The inside 3 create the box. So let's see that in action with another one here. So let's put our data in order. And remember, you can pause me whenever you need to, get things copied down, and then we can come back and work on it together. So here we want to put it in order. So I have 23, then I have 28, and 28, 29, 30, and I have another 30, then I have 34, 34, and 36. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm good there. So first thing I want to find is my median. So my median is at 30. So you'll notice that on my number line, I'm counting by twos. When you draw this in your notes, yes, you need to number the number line. It's not just a line with some slashes on it. We got to know what those numbers represent. So if it helps you, you are welcome to write in the numbers in between on your number line. For others of you, you're fine with it. You kind of know what's in between, but others of you, it helps to actually have them written in. So feel free. My median is going to be at 30. Now I'm going to find my first quartile, the middle of the lower half. So I'm going to sort to the middle. In this case, I have two numbers, so I have to find what's in the middle. Well, in the middle of 28 and 28 is 28. So that's my first quartile, is 28. Then I do the same thing on the upper half. I sort to the middle. In this case, I had 2, so I got to find the middle of 34. Well, middle of 34 and 34 is 34. So I'm just doing the same thing I did in my measures of variation with one extra piece. Now I'm also going to take my lower extreme and my upper extreme. And this is another reason why we have to have them in order so we can see which one's the smallest and which one's the greatest. So my upper extreme, or my maximum, is 36. My minimum is at 23. Now, if you remember, the outer edges are the whiskers, and then the 3 in the middle form the box. So the first and third quartiles are the edges of the box, and then the median is somewhere in the middle. It's not always directly in the middle. It's just somewhere in between the first and third quartile. Now, one thing to take into consideration, notice how we broke it up into 4 parts. Basically, we kind of chunked our data into 4 sections. Okay? Basically, we divided our data up into 4 parts. So if you think about it, 25% of my data is here, 25% is here, 25% is here, 25% is here. Basically, I divided my data up into 4 equal parts, so each of them are 25%. All right, so I want you to try this one. Put your data in order, find your different pieces of information, and then let's look at it together. All right, so hopefully you noticed the data was already in order. That was nice of them for us. Now we just need to create our box plot. So we need to find our median. So I'm going to sort from both ends. And I'm left with 11 as my median. Here I'm counting by 3s, so like it would be 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 19, 20. So feel free to put in those extra marks if that helps, and even number them if you want to. Since you're writing it out yourself, you're always welcome to number your number line however you want to, as long as you've got all the numbers there. So if you just wanted to count them all by ones, that's okay. So I'm going to put a point at 11. Now I'm going to sort to the middle of my lower half. And I'm going to get 10. So that's really close to my 11. There's not a lot of space there. And then on the upper half, I'm going to sort to the middle and get my third quartile as 16. So that's just past my 15. Those 3 create the box. Quartile 1, the median, and quartile 3. And then last, my lower extreme, my minimum, and then my upper extreme, my maximum. Sorry, you can hear my kids jumping upstairs. So my maximum is at 27. My lower extreme, sorry, I can't read it there, was at 6. So that's my lower extreme and my upper extreme. And then it says, look at the box plot in the problem above and describe the data. So here's what it's looking for. It wants you to kind of look at the sizes of the different spots. So remember we said each of these was 25% of the data. Now, do they all look like they're the same size? No. Some are big, some are little, but here's the whole key to a box plot. The size of the section doesn't mean there wasn't very much data there. Or because this one's really long doesn't mean there's a whole bunch of data there. They all kind of got broken up into equal chunks. 2, 2, 2. There's not more data there. The key is it's more spread out on the longer ends. It went all the way from 16 to 27. That's why it was so long, because the data was spread out. Here, we just went from 10 to 11. That's why they're so close to each other, because the data is not very spread out. So we could say the data in the lower half is close together, while the data in the upper half is spread out. So think of it. These are kind of short, so that means the data is close together. Just from 6 to 10, that's not very far apart, or 10 to 11. On the other side, they start to get more spread out. 11 to 16 and 16 to 27. They're longer because that data just isn't very close. It's kind of spread out. All right, hopefully you got a pretty good handle on this. Let's try one last one together. You notice this time we're counting by tens, so you can kind of add in the pieces in between, but we're going to have to do a little bit of estimating when we go to actually put our numbers in here. So let's put them in order. Go ahead and try this one for yourself. You should be feeling pretty confident in it, and then we can go back over it together in just a minute. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to stop talking. I was just focused on sorting my data. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. I'm listening to my kids yell upstairs while I'm working. And 130 and 140. All right, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. So I'm going to sort to the middle. So 1 from either end. This time I already know I'm going to get stuck with 2 numbers in the middle. So I'm going to have to find the middle of those 2 numbers to find my median. Well, what's in between 110 and 114? Well, that's going to be 112. So my median is going to be at 112. Now, here's the part that some of us got tripped up on in the measures of variation lesson. My median was in between the 110 and 114. So 110 wasn't my median, 114 wasn't my median. So when I go to find my first quartile, the 110 is part of that lower half because it wasn't my median. So I'm going to sort to the middle, and I'm going to get a first quartile of 106, so just past the 105. Same thing here. 114 was not the actual median, so I don't ignore it. It's part of my upper half. I'm going to sort to the middle, and I get 122 as my third quartile. That's going to form the box. And then my lower extreme was 104. So that's a pretty short one. Then my upper extreme is 140. That one's a lot longer. And then I want you to take a second and describe it. You could actually describe this one just like we did the last problem. The data on the lower half is close together because it's really short. The data on the upper half is much longer, which means the data is more spread out. All right. Thanks for listening, and now it's time to practice.